Good morning and welcome once again to the Treasureland School of Cookery. We are dealing basically with all the basics in cooking, and as we have been continuing this program, we agreed that we need to start from the very elementary levels. So today's topic is terms of definition. Terms of definition. As we continue, remember to subscribe, remember to share, and also remember to like this program as we grow together. My name is Chef Jeffrey. Welcome as we get on board. So the first term that we are learning today is al dente. Al dente. Al dente mainly is used in the cookery of pastas. They are cooked just firm, not soggy, not broken, but just firm. Al dente. Then there is the other term bake. Is commonly used by each and every one of us in our cookery. It means to cook food in an oven that is surrounded with dry heat. It can be a convection oven or it can be a dry heat oven. You can also bake using the rational system of bakery. Then the third term we are learning is baste. To baste. Baste mostly is to moisten food for added value and to prevent it drying out while cooking. Like while you are baking in the oven or you are roasting in the oven, you oftenly will come and open up your oven, take part of the liquid and the juices and the oil that has come from your item that is roasting, and you pour it on to your meat that is baking. It will moisten the meat and add in more flavor. Then we have another word, butter. Now this butter is B-A-T-T-E-R, butter. Butter is an uncooked pourable mixture, usually made up of flour, the liquid, and other ingredients. I've used that word other ingredients because there are so many variations of butter, so that when you come into contact with this, you not have a collision with your mind as to which type of butter we are talking about. Butter. Then we have beat. Many a times you'll be told beat in the egg. It means to stir rapidly to make a mixture smooth, using a whisk, using a spoon, or using a mixer. Beat. Then the next term we'll be learning today is blanch. What does it mean to blanch? What does it mean to blanch? To blanch is to cook briefly in boiling water, to seal in flavor and color. And this is mostly used for vegetables or fruit that could be prepared even for freezing. And it is also helpful, especially with the ease when it comes to the removal of skin, blanching. Then we're also learning about blend. To blend. What does it mean to blend? To blend is to thoroughly combine two or more ingredients, either by hand, with a whisk or spoon, or with a mixer or a blender. To blend. To blend. Then we have our next item, boil. Most often used in the kitchen, most often used in daily lives. We boil me that piece of maize. Is to cook in bubbling water that has been heated to close to 100 degrees centigrade. Spoiling. Boiling. Then the other time we also come to use is you'll come into contact with this is to bread. To bread does not mean to be given bread. It means to coat with crumbs or cornmeal before cooking. You've encountered items called breadcrumb chicken, fish fingers, chicken nuggets, and so forth and so forth, to bread. Broil is our next term. Broil. What does it mean to broil? To broil is to cook on a rack or spit under or over direct heat, usually in an oven. Mostly, you've seen those chicken that are in town. They are stuck on something that rolls all over, and as they roll over, they are cooking. And mostly, we confuse that when we go to those places. We say we want roast chicken. The method of cooking that chicken, yes, to you and to your eyes, it looks like roast chicken, but that is broiled chicken. It's broiled chicken. Then our next term is brown. Many a times you'll be told brown the meat. To brown is to cook over high heat, usually over a top stove, with the purpose to brown the outside of the meat. Mostly this is done to meat before continuing cooking using any other method. And the essence of this is to seal in the juices so that when the pores of the meat are sealed, the juices and the seasoning that has gone into the meat as you did your marination remains in the meat, and this brings out the oozing sweet aroma and taste as the meat hits your taste buds. Core is our next word. What does it mean to core? Core is to remove the seeds or tough woody centers from fruits and vegetables. Core. You remove the tough seeds, toughy wooden centers from fruits and vegetables and even seeds. You can do this to tomatoes, you can do this to apples and different types of fruits. Then there is the word cream. Cream in cookery does not mean that oil that we put on ourselves to make our skin smooth and look better. No, this means to beat ingredients, usually sugar and fat, until smooth and fluffy. You're doing creaming. To beat ingredients, usually sugar and fat, until smooth and fluffy. Our next word is cube. Cube. You'll be told, do that meat in cubes, or cube the carrots or the tomatoes. Is to cut food into small cubes. They are half-inch sizes, cubes, half-inch sizes, half-inch sizes. Then deep fry. Deep fry is to cook by completely immersing food in hot fat. And most often, oil does this better. Oil does deep frying better. Oil does it better. Then we have the other word, dice. Dice to cut food into very small cubes. The first one, cube, we say the sizes of the cubes need to be half an inch by half an inch by half an inch by half an inch. But when we are doing dices, they are slightly smaller. They are eighth to a quarter of an inch. They are slightly smaller. They are slightly smaller. Drizzle. To drizzle is to pour melted butter, oil, syrup, melted chocolate, or other liquid back and forth over food in a fine stream. Sometimes you'll see, like when cakes are finished, you see the like lines have been drawn over the cake as if somebody was playing zigzag. And you see some of the finishes of the meats when they are plated, they look like somebody was doing some artwork. They make with a sauce. They're simply called drizzling the sauce. Fillet. To fillet is to cut bones from a piece of meat, poultry or fish, so that you present a flat piece of boneless meat. Or we can say in simple terms is to remove bones from the meat. Although, still while here, we need to make it clear that in the different portions, in the different cuts of beef, from the loin of beef underside, we will be able to find the fillet, which is a long strip of beef that is embedded right on the back of the animal, just below where the strip loin is. Fillet. Fold is a common word that is used in the kitchen. To fold means to combine light ingredients such as whipped cream or beaten egg whites with a heavier mixture using a gentle over and under motion. Sio mbio mbio, you're not using a lot of force, usually with a rubber spatula. And this is most commonly done at the pastries. Is where you find this term mostly commonly used in folding the chocolate, and it works best. Glaze is another word that we are to learn today. What does it mean to glaze? To glaze, you'll hear it commonly used. Do glaze the bread, glaze the pork chops. To glaze is to coat foods with glossy mixtures such as jellies or sauces, so that when they are coming, they are brittle, they look alluring, and they are also inviting. In glazing, we also use honey, and it brings out a very fine taste and does the glazes look better. Grate, grate. This one is common even in our households, we know it. But to grate is to rub food against a serrated surface to produce shreds of fine bits. We shred carrots, shred vegetables, we can shred potatoes, and different items that need to be grated to grate. And we normally use that serrated surface. If you don't have a serrated surface, you can buy a grater. They are easily available in our common shops. Grease is the other word we are learning today. What does it mean to grease? To grease is to rub the interior surface of a cooking dish or pan with oil or butter to prevent sticking. To prevent sticking. We use oil on that item that we want to use for roasting. We use oil on that surface that we want to do our baking. We just slightly rub some oil on the surface, and then we put our meat there. Then we put it in the oven if you're using the oven, and we will be turning it over, and as it cooks. Grill, grill. Another common word. To grill is to cook food on a rack under or over direct heat, as on a barbecue or in a broiler. We had mentioned the word broiler before. To broil, now you can get the word broiler from there. What distinguishes grills from other modes of pan frying is the grills have grill marks. And the grill marks form a distinctive pattern on the item that is being cooked, such that it adds some oomph on the taste and the presentation of the item. Julienne is another key word today. Julienne is to cut into long, thin strips, matchstick-like in shape. You've heard of matchstick potatoes. You've heard of julienne of carrots. We can do julienne of different types of vegetables, julienne of different types of meat cuts, chicken, fish, pork, depending on how we want to cook them. Meats or items that are cut in julienne are mostly attuned for stir-fried dishes because they cook very fast and they also taste very, very, very good. Although it doesn't rule out braising as in the cookery of beef stroganoff. Need, need, K-N-E-A-D, to knead. To knead is to blend dough together with hands or a mixture to form a pliable mass. We need our flour to do mandazi, to do breads, and to do different type of pastries. Need. Marinate. Another key word and common word that has been used and misused and misunderstood in equal measure. To marinate is just simply to soak meat or vegetable items in flavored liquid for a given period of time. The secret of good marination is the longer the time, the taste of the meat, because it fuses together with the flavors and it also aids a bit into the softening of the meat items. And as the meat becomes tender, it also reduces on our time of cookery. Mince is another word. Mince. Mince to cut is to cut into tiny pieces. Cut into tiny pieces, usually with a knife. You could be having onions, could be having carrots, could be having your meat. You want to cut it into very fine pieces. You can put it on the chopping board. You cut into small pieces and then you start mincing it, cutting it into tiny pieces. Tiny pieces, very small pieces. Poach is our next magic word today. To poach. To poach is to cook gently over very low heat in a barely simmering liquid. Unfortunately, this has been tricky to so many people. And especially when it comes to poaching eggs, you realize you will be brought an egg that you wonder, is this are these two pieces of eggs or one? Because it was simply done overheating over water that was boiling, and so patches of the egg have been eaten off by the water. But poaching is simply cooking gently over very low heat in barely simmering liquid, just to cover. And this does magic even to poached chicken, poached fish. They come out very nice and very rich taste. Puree. To puree. Puree is our next word. To puree is to mash or grind food until completely smooth, usually in a food processor or blender. And today this has become very common because of the use of equipment in the kitchen, such that even marinades are simply prepared in the food processor. They are simply pureed. You bring together whatever items you want to, to, to make as your marination: ginger, garlic, onions, leeks, celery, some oil, some herbs, and you put them in the blender and you process them, you puree them. That process is called pureeing. Then roast. Roast. Roast is to cook a large piece of meat or poultry and covered with heat in an oven. That is to roast. And so this brings out the distinction about the item that we first talked about, broiling. You realize that this roasting is done first, the piece of meat is large, then it is done and covered in an oven that has dry heat. Our next word is saute, to saute or to pan fry. To saute or to pan fry. Saute is spelled S-A-U-T-E with an apostrophe on top of the E. So to saute is to cook food in a small amount of fat over relatively high heat. That is to saute. And it is used to cook that food stuff for a very short time. For a very short time. Next word is scald. 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 To scald is to heat liquid almost to a boil until bubbles begin to form around the edge. To heat liquid almost to a boil until bubbles begin to form around the edge. That's to scald. To scald. Then sear. Sear. You'll be told, I want to have that beef well seared. Is to brown the surface of meat by quickly cooking over high heat in order to seal in the meat juices. You are searing. The meat will look cooked from the outside, but that doesn't mean it is cooked, just seared. Then shred is our next word. To shred. To shred. This is to cut food into narrow strips with a knife or a grater. Narrow strips with a knife or a grater. Shredding. Simmer is our next word. Simmer. Simmer. To simmer is to cook in liquid just below the boiling point. Bubbles form but do not burst on the surface of the liquid. You have to keenly look at the item that is boiling for you to confirm that it is boiling. So the heat is minimally reduced and the item is covered to seal in the flavors. Steam is our next word. Steam. Steaming is a method of cooking food on a rack or in a steamer set over boiling or simmering water in a covered pan so that the food doesn't come into contact with the water, but the steam is what does the cooking. Then the next word we are covering is stew. Stew. Stew, or we call it stew. To cook food covered over low heat in a liquid. To cook food covered in low heat in a liquid. Then stir fry. To stir fry is to quickly cook small pieces of food over high heat, stirring constantly. It's a fast method of cooking, and it helps seal off the juices into the food. It also conserves the taste, and it's an easy way of whipping a dish while on the run. Whip. Whip. W-H-I-P. Whip is to beat food with a whisker or mixer to incorporate in air and produce volume. For example, you take your 2 eggs and you take a wire whisk in a glass bowl, break in the eggs, then you start whisking. As you continue whisking, you'll realize as you continue incorporating in the air, the volume of the egg will start increasing. We call it whipping. Whisk is another word. Whisk is another word. To whisk is to beat ingredients with a fork or whisk to mix. Simply to blend or incorporate in air. That is to whisk. Then we have the other word called, our last word for today is the word zest. Zest. We've heard over this, and sometimes we don't understand what it is. Sometimes when we eat our food, you realize we are like peeling off some pieces of food item that have remained on our tongue. Zest is the outer colored part of the peel of citrus fruits, usually oranges and lemons. They are usually grated and incorporated into the dish for added flavor. This can be done for different meat dishes, can be done for rice, can also be done for pancakes, and quite a number of items. So these items, these terms that we have used here today, we shall be engaging with them each and every day as we will start when we will start doing our live cookery sessions. But for now, we have to continue with these lessons until at that point we realize that each and every one of us now is conversant with all the basics. Now we can start doing the cooking, so that when you are cooking, you won't be troubled. It will just be an enjoyable move and exercise. For today, that is what was meant for us. Thank you and goodbye.